Like to call to order tonight's study session, July 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And all council members are present except Mr. Reed, and I understand he's trying to get on, so he might jump in a few minutes. So I will say we're all here. First thing on the schedule is fiber optic master plan update. And I will call on Administrative Services Director Jeff Steffens.
Thank you, Mayor. And while they're coming up to the table here and getting their presentation started, I'll just let you know we do have a full agenda tonight. The goal is to work through items 1, 2, and 4 in about 30 minutes each. And then item 3 should be shorter than that, probably a 15-minute discussion. So we do have a plan to stay within our normal time frame tonight. And we do have an executive session at the end too. I just want to give you a heads up.
Yep.
Sure. That way, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. With us tonight, I'm sure you know these other two gentlemen, but we have Paul Dunn with us. He has been serving the city as our fiber consultant for a period of 2 years now. So we're here this evening to kind of give you an update on our master plan and look for some council input moving forward.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Good evening. Good to see you again. Good to be here and report on some progress on Sumner's fiber optic master plan. When we last met, the council had expressed their views and vision on a network for the city of Sumner. We came away from that with a good understanding of where the city was positioned. That was in follow-up to our fiber optic infrastructure that we did in 2021. Just to quickly review, we had estimated construction costs if the city did it themselves, built the network themselves, at just a little over $5.5 million. And the initial time frame on that was anywhere from 3 to 5 years based on budget constraints, financing, and construction time. So our understanding of the council's purpose and vision on this was to investigate potential funding mechanisms, possibly looking at public-private partnerships, and to overall look at a way to implement it with lower cost to the city, obviously. So as part of that guidance, we reached out to about 15 known fiber optic vendors in Washington State, and also Idaho and a couple other states that do business within Washington State. And we reached out with a request for information, basically a letter saying, "Hi, we're Sumner. We'd like to work with you. Are you interested?" As part of that outreach effort, we were contacted nearly immediately by a company called FatBeam, which is a fiber optic network builder, who indicated, "We're working right now with the Sumner Bonnie Lake School District to implement a dark fiber optic network for Bonnie Lake Sumner School District." And they asked to meet with us. And we did, I believe, in April. And FatBeam said, "This is good timing because if we're already here and we're doing this, can we talk about potentially doing this for Sumner?" They came in with some ballpark numbers, and we said, "Well, thank you very much. We need to look at how we would go about working with FatBeam or potentially other vendors." One of the things that is advantageous to the city, to municipalities within the state of Washington, is revised code of Washington allows for what's known as competitive negotiation with telecommunications service providers. So it's a little different than the traditional bid and accept the low bid business. So with that in mind, we sent out a request for proposal to those 15 vendors to enter into competitive negotiation. And we received 4 responses. Fat Beam was one of them. We evaluated the responses in early June, and of the 4 who responded, a company called Astound, you know it as Wave Broadband, had the most advantageous contract proposal as well as the best pricing. By far, we were, I hate to say it, but we were astounded.
We actually gave them a perfect score. in our rating.
At any rate, at this point, we've responded to the other vendors. We've said, thank you very much. This is where things were positioned. And we are presenting our results so far to the council to brief you on Astound's offer, the potential fiber routes, the advantages to the city, and so forth. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeff, who can talk about Astound's proposal.
So as Paul mentioned, Astound was the clear-cut favorite proposal that we reviewed. Their initial proposal laid out a 30-year term for providing fiber service to the city. Astound currently holds a franchise agreement for providing telecom services in town. So it's a company that we've dealt with. So that kind of speeds up the process and makes it a little easier. Astound's business model is unique in that they proposed running the fiber route directly through our industrial center. Really, their pricing is based on the fact that Sumner was not going to be the only customer, but Sumner was going to be one of many customers that they hope to get on their fiber network. So the idea was running fiber lines for Sumner, running additional fiber lines that then they could pick up, warehousing, industrial clients. So that really helped with their proposal. And what that does is it does have some economic development advantages to the city based on where they plan on running the route. Their initial proposal was a non-recurring, so an upfront fee that would be placed to the city of roughly $50,000, a monthly recurring rate of $10,000 a month for the first 15 years. And then after that, it drops to $950 a month. What was unique in their proposal is they noted a willingness to adjust pricing. So they're willing to look at different pricing structures depending on how much the city wants to put upfront in that initial non-recurring kind of the down payment, like financing an automobile. So that's something that will be up for discussion this evening. So as we move forward in contract negotiations, we still have a few things that we need to kind of work out and discuss with them. There's a lot of small details which will be Paul's part of that negotiations, but big picture stuff is we need to determine the build out schedule. They had initially quoted a term of somewhere between 12 and 18 months. So we'll kind of need to pinpoint that. We anticipate it's going to be on the shorter side of that construction window, but that is still much faster than we had ever planned on doing it ourselves. We'll need to identify kind of our priority sites. We had talked about hooking fiber up into, our traffic lights and all of our city facilities. And we really internally need to kind of talk about which cities do we want to light up with fiber first, and which are ones that we can later add in as we build out, as they build out. And then our proposal is looking at different pricing schedules based on a different upfront cost. And some figures that we had discussed were the initial $50,000 and then looking at $50,000 increments up to $150,000 down to see what that would do to lower, especially our first 15 years of monthly recurring costs.
So a little bit about once the fiber is installed, what's it going to cost us to get it hooked up? Because the services we're getting from Astound will be dark fiber. In other words, nothing will be connected to the ends of the fiber. So we need to start looking at what does it take for us to connect the ends here at City Hall and the ends at all of our other facilities along with the traffic signals. We're estimating the cost to be between $75,000 to $100,000. We think that it's probably going to be closer to the low end, but we wanted to plan for worst case scenario. That's also going to include the traffic signal network equipment, which that's kind of expensive equipment because it has to be able to handle being out there in a box somewhat in the environment. It's going to get really hot in the summer. It's going to get really cold in the winter. It's going to be rained on. It's going to be snowed on. Not the actual equipment, but it'll be the equipment inside the box at each traffic signal. So the hardened equipment for that is a little bit more expensive. The traffic systems, the specific hardware and software, what we're looking at for that is we're looking at probably moving forward with that in the 25-26 budget. I believe Public Works already has some funding that they were allocating towards a similar project and yeah. So after complete, basically what it is that this is going to give us a shorter timeline as Paul and Jeff mentioned, moving it from 3 to 5 years to 12 to 18 months is what we're looking at. Also, it's going to allow us to have a fixed long-term cost for the network, because if you look at how much you paid for your phone service 30 years ago and how much you're paying for your phone service or your internet and stuff like that today, it's a lot more, where we're going to actually be able to lock in all of our costs. Also, it's going to improve our bandwidth between City Hall and all of our remote sites as well as the traffic signals. And one thing that I'm really happy about is it's going to give us the highest level of physical network security. What that means is that the data traveling between our site and all the remote locations is going on fiber that's point to point. In other words, it's from the City Hall to the shops, from City Hall to the treatment plant. Nobody can get on it no matter what. It's just pretty much impossible for people to get on. Where currently we leverage the internet using VPN technology, which is quite secure, but this is actually gives us a higher level of security. Also, it's going to give us a centralized access control for remote sites as well as the traffic signals and the connectivity for the traffic signals as well.
Does it get rid of dual muffa?
No, it doesn't get rid of dual muffa. That's going to be here for a while.
Click back on the main screen, sorry.
So our next steps is to determine the upfront costs. As I mentioned earlier, it's going to be $75 to $1,000 for the networking equipment to hook up the dark fiber. We also need to see if it's the 50,000, 100,000, 150,000, and then come up with get input from the council, come up with a agreed upon agreement, and present that to Astound, and then return to you folks for an update and approval.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're going to be looking for this evening from council is kind of a temperature check on what your level of comfortability is with different upfront pricing models, knowing that we also have some fixed IT costs to get this installed. As Brian mentioned, this project wasn't initially in our budget. We had not planned to be connecting to fiber this year. It kind of fell into our laps, and we thought this was something we're going to be dealing with, 3 years into the future. So this is not budgeted. As I mentioned, we are looking at anywhere between a $50,000 to $150,000 upfront cost to Astound. My recommendation that I'll be bringing to the ARPA committee is that we use ARPA funding to cover a majority of that. It will at least at a minimum cover the entire general fund portion of that, but the rest will be made up from utilities. And so kind of that's where we're at this evening.
Any questions?
Questions?
Councilmember Potato.
So this is just purely for city business, that what you're talking about, all the costs.
Yeah, so this is a private fiber network that they will be installing, where we will have dedicated fiber lines that will be connecting our city facilities.
Okay, and this has nothing to do with personal connecting to the internet.
Now, as Astound builds out their network, Paul Paul would be the expert in this, they can add additional lines of fiber to then connect to different businesses and kind of replicate what they're doing for us for the private side as well.
And that's
But-
why you talked about it coming through the MIC.
Yeah, we believe that's kind of their goal.
Okay.
And we will
Councilmember-
not be providing internet service through the city of
they?
Sumner like the Click Network does over in Tacoma area.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Thank
Councilmember
you.
Newman.
What was the difference between their pricing and say like Fat Beans?
We didn't want to show you a huge spreadsheet that we did, but we can give you some basic numbers.
Right, I could make the spreadsheet and tally sheets available to you
Yeah.
if you like. as
We
well.
just didn't want to show you during the presentation. because-
On the very basic, Fat Beam's upfront cost was, $1 million.
The total.
Yeah, with a monthly reoccurring cost of $9,950 as well. So same monthly cost, but $1 million upfront compared to 50,000. And they were only proposing a 20-year term. I think in total, over the life of a 30-year contract, they were about $1 million, like $1.3 million more.
What other cities is Wave or Astound doing that? Are they providing it for other cities at this point? Do you know? Like, I'm wondering about their current customer.
Directly
base.
to municipalities or
Mhm.
business in general.
Well, municipalities is my first question, and then if they don't have a client base in that regard, then
Right.
other businesses.
I'm aware that they recently completed a fiber optic project for Thurston County. Not for the entire county, but to connect some of their public safety facilities, fire and police. Wave has a large presence on the Kitsap Peninsula. Extending up into Bremerton. They are pretty active in North King County. They have some presence within Seattle where they have the ability to put fiber in. And they're making inroads as they move south, but they've been a long-term player in the state of Washington for fiber optic and internet connectivity. They're based in Kirkland, so they're a local company.
And they also currently have some fiber already installed in Sumner.
Okay, I'm assuming someone has asked why they can do it for 50K when everyone else, like, when others are up to $1 million.
If we brought up the maps of how they're doing it, it would show that they're running through the industrial center. Where the other companies that proposed their solution didn't run their fiber up through the industrial center. They ran it kind of on the east side of the industrial center, going through the golf course.
Yeah.
Or the old golf.
For
course.
instance, Fat Beam's business model is different. Fat Beam was providing fiber to the school district and thought while they were there, they might as well add us as a customer, which is completely different than Astound, which is let's add Sumner, and while we're at it, let's try to attract an Amazon or something like that as a big client to pair with our fiber install.
And I think that accounts to your question for their lower quote. They're anticipating to pick up. on-
They're trying to get in the market.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Brian there? I recognize his voice. Is that the other
Yes,
speaker?
yes, I'm here.
Brian, good job on this. I'm curious about the upfront cost and the benefit to the city of paying more upfront versus paying higher monthly, because technology improves a great deal over a 30-year period. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, when I bought a cell phone 10 years ago, it cost quite a bit more and the service was really bad. Now it's about the same price and a lot better service. So do you have any thoughts about the advantage to the city to paying more upfront instead of paying it annually at a lower rate, hoping for a better economic outlook in the future?
So I wish that I had a crystal ball that I could reference. However, I can only reference the past and what the city has paid in the past. When I very first started here in 2001, we were paying for copper lines between our site and the remote sites, and we paid about a total of $300 for all the connectivity. Now we're paying $2,500 for it. So I see that I see that, that cost continuing to go up. I agree, technology is continuing to change. But I think that locking in the price today and paying that same amount for the first 15 years and then dropping the cost by 90% for the second 15 years would be advantageous to us. Also, the traffic signals, fiber is the industry standard. They said if you can do fiber above all else. So, yeah, I'm unsure of what the new technologies are gonna be, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
And I think what we're really looking for is the flexibility to look at different pricing strategies by being able to potentially put more money down as an upfront payment. We as a group will still choose whatever overall cost is the best to the city, but we would like the flexibility to be able to look at different options. Our concern was going forward and saying that we would be willing to put $150,000 down as an upfront cost, and they come back with a really good proposal. And then, we don't have the council's blessing to spend that much money upfront on a non-budget item. So that's kind of really what we're hoping to gain this evening.
Okay, yeah, I'm all for paying more now than over time, as money's cheaper now than it will be over a period of time. So I would go with agree to the recommended proposal of paying higher upfront costs, provided we can find money for it in the budget. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I understand that they want to give us a better price because they think they'll be able to get customers out in the industrial area. And what I'm wondering about that is, here I understand we have other locations we want to hook ourselves to, but out in the industrial area, who would they be hooking to? I mean, there's standalone warehouses and businesses there. I don't understand who they'd be running a cable to.
We identified several large players up there. In particular, one is Amazon. Now, we don't know how Amazon connects their facilities today. We anticipate that Wave will approach businesses like that have, in the case of your industrial corridor, multiple locations that they could use Wave's fiber to directly connect to. Wave is also a provider of direct internet services. So any business down that corridor who's currently subscribed to Comcast Business or Lumen, CenturyLink is a potential candidate.
Okay,
for
so they
Wave's
have broader
business.
services that they see they can do things with. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then on the different amounts that we can pay up front, you haven't told us too much about that as far as what benefit there would be as far as, are you going to talk about that, or is Cassandra going to talk about that?
No,
or-
and the reason why we haven't talked about that is because we don't know. That's going to be part of the negotiation process with them. Is, they said that they would be open to different pricing strategies. So what we wanted to make sure was that the council was open to different pricing strategies. So if in fact, we feel as a group that we can get a better overall deal for the city if we put more money down and lower our recurring monthly cost, then you are all okay with that. If you said fiber is great, but the most we want to do is $50,000, then we will move forward with that direction and we'll get the best deal at that rate.
So it wouldn't actually be saving us interest. It'd be saving
Saving us on our
monthly bill. So it
yeah.
wouldn't be the $10,000 a month.
That would be the hope, is if we paid more upfront, that we would be able to lower that $10,000 monthly bill to something less than $10,000 at this point. We don't exactly know what that is.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure we have an ARPA meeting here fairly soon. And then after that happens, then you would get the response and,
Yep. So, one is just kind of an overall pricing strategy. Are we okay with the money, the dollar amount, and then the options of where we could get that money from? And one of those is ARPA. There is funds available to pay for a significant portion of whatever this upfront cost is out of remaining ARPA funds. And it would fit as an ARPA.
okay, because I
eligible
think
item.
most people's concern is the fact that we weren't budgeted for that at this
Correct.
time. And so, but you're looking at there are possibilities to make this happen. So,
We think we can make it work.
Okay, appreciate your work. Thank you.
Go ahead, Barbara.
How much are you paying now monthly for internet service? To keep connected?
$2,556
Oh, and 50 cents
per month.
But, you know, so that internet bill would go away once this is put in.
Correct.
Okay.
So do we have any input on what you, I'll start with you, Pat, if you want to let them know if you're okay with that or.
I am. I actually just have sort of a quick question though, and this is about, okay, so this is all underground, correct?
No,
It
it'll be a
isn't.
combination of aerial and underground.
And underground.
Right.
Okay, and I'm sure that there have been thoughts about this already and discussion, but I was just curious because we have that dig once policy
Right.
and how that would affect it. I can see if it was just city facilities, but when they're looking for other customers away from the city, is there a possibility that there's more than, there are gonna be more than one opportunity or more than one instance of digging?
If their plans do involve laying conduit in, they are subject then to the ordinance. Sumner could take advantage of, or another vendor, if they wanted to participate in that contract,
Mhm.
could take advantage of that open trench during construction. I do have their proposed route map with me. I can bring it up on the screen if you want, which illustrates what they see as being aerial and what they see as being underground. If you'd like to see that.
Oh, no, that's not necessary. I was just curious. You're the professionals. I was just curious. But as far as upfront money, I would, well, my take is that it seems to me that it would be better to pay as much upfront as possible to lower the cost in the future. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Brown, you have any input?
Perfect, thank you.
Councilmember Reed. Is not in the house.
So
There he is.
sorry about that. I'm having extreme technical issues myself today. So there are a couple of, I mean, I've got questions about the about Wave and their ability to provide the service. Mainly because it's not one that I'm super familiar with, but I know they have a residential, but I know nothing about their commercial side. And now on the other one that's using the school district, isn't that underground?
Do you remember if Fat Beam's proposal? I think it included multiple different types of installation. I think
Right.
all of our proposals we're going to be using different installation methods.
Okay. And then are there any others that are currently operating in the city or requesting to operate in the city?
CenturyLink or Lumen has a presence in the city. They didn't respond to ours in terms of franchise agreements where carriers are active providing consumer or business-based internet or dark fiber services. No. We have Wave, we have Fat Beam, we have Zayo, which is another fiber company that did not respond. And their services within Sumner right now are limited. I believe they're mainly long haul, which means their fiber is just passing through town on the way to Portland.
Okay, so it sounds like Wave and Fat Beam are the two more dominant choices for what they're planning to provide within the city anyhow.
That's correct. And I think you'd find that their business models are a little different. Fat Beam is focusing right now in this area mainly on dark fiber services. So leasing fiber to other customers. Astound and Wave are sort of the all-in-one shop. You can get dark fiber, you can get commercial internet service. And so they have a larger menu. Councilman Reed, to address your question on Wave's presence in the Northwest They're a Kirkland, Washington-based company. They are very active on the Kitsap Peninsula in terms of consumer cable as well as internet services. They have some presence in the city of Seattle and in North King County. So they've been busy in this area for some number of years. They're an established player.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? I think you're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We are going to move on to roadway preservation program update, and that will call Mr. Gersmeron. Uh-huh. Maybe Andrew too. Never know.
Before we get started, while Mr. Steffens is uploading the presentation, I don't know if everybody's had the pleasure to meet Mr. Gersmeron Singh. He's our engineering specialist. He's been with the city for about 8 months now, correct?
Yes.
So he comes to us from City of Kent and some private work, if I remember right. So he's been a great addition, and we'll turn it over to him once the presentation gets up. Or not.
Or not.
And if we need to, we'll skip forward to the next item and come right back to this one.
We had that cable underground, that it would just pop right up.
All right, we're gonna move on and.
We're gonna
if not,
skip
we can-
to
you can join the
public-
meeting. We'll just share your screen.
We're gonna skip to Public Works Trust Fund application authorization, and I'm gonna call on engineering assistant Drew McCarty. And then we'll go back to the roadway preservation.
You're gonna get out of here a little bit earlier.
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Drew McCarty, engineering specialist here at the city. And I'm here to talk to you guys today about seeking funding from the Public Works Trust Fund Loan Program for the new decant facility located at the new operations facility. So up on the screen up here is kind of a site view of the new operations facility, which is that bigger square down below, and then clouded in red is where the new decant facility will be located. Just as a refresher, decant facilities, a large concrete pad where we can take stormwater, street waste materials, and it can be collected and then either reused or disposed of properly.
Jason, can you turn the microphone a little bit towards you?
Okay, you have
Sorry.
to speak up a little bit too.
Thank you.
Next is our estimated construction phases. We have 3 phases. First phase will be demo of any existing buildings and then preload the site for soil improvement. And that should be happening winter of 2024. And then phase 2 will be spring of 2024 and we'll begin construction of the decant facility. And then phase 3 will be summer of 2024, and that will be construction of the operations facility. So we do currently have a decant facility that is at our wastewater treatment plant. That currently collects street sweepings and material from catch basins. This facility lacks insufficient space to decant materials collected from storm ponds, factor trucks, and any dewatering that comes from construction sites. Temporarily, those materials that we can't decant at the wastewater treatment facility, we are bringing to what is going to be the White River Restoration Project. And that is a temporary location due to the project beginning mid-2024. So that north parcel that I showed you earlier is where the new decant facility will be located. And that temporary facility that we are using is where that material will go at our new decant facility. So far, we've completed design work and properties have been acquired. Next step is to secure funding, which as of July 5th, our cost estimate is roughly $2.8 million. And then after that, it will be phase 1 of demo and preload of the site, and then to begin decant construction. A little bit about the Public Works Board Trust Fund loan. They have a construction loan program. It's a program that focuses on activities that help repair, replace, or create a facility. And this program has approximately $221 million available in funds. A couple of facts is it's a 1.72% interest rate. There's no local match funding required, no loan fee, and then construction awards will be announced on August 5th. And then shortly after that, within 6 months of issuing the award, we'll get the contract. And the reason I'm here today is part of the application process for this Public Works Trust Fund loan is there is an applicant certification form, and it has to be signed by a governing body. And it is affirming that all threshold requirements are met and that we are recognizing that the Public Works Board loan is a repayable debt. Threshold requirements are to adopt a greenhouse gas policy, adopt a capital facilities plan, must impose a 0.25% real estate excise tax, and must be current with Growth Management Act planning requirements. Our next steps are for council to approve signing of the application certification, and then staff to report back in August to discuss additional financing options for phase 1 and phase 3, and then a golf course sale update.
Any questions for Drew?
Yeah. You ready?
Go ahead, Cindy.
Is there room at the plant already, or did you have to buy more property?
At the wastewater treatment
Yeah.
facility?
We're actually not talking about the wastewater treatment facility.
You're not.
We're talking about just the site of the new operations facility on that north parcel. Which
At the
we've
new
already,
operations
which we've
which
already
is-
acquired
out in the industrial area?
off
Mhm.
of 29th Street.
Okay, all right. That's what I was trying to figure out. How are they squeezing this
Yeah.
in there? Okay, so you are already dumping there in not a non-concrete thing? Where was it you were taking it? At the golf course?
At the golf course, and it is natural soils that are being dumped there. So any contaminated soils are being taken to the wastewater treatment facility decant.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Cole?
Yeah, just one quick question. So one of the requirements is to impose a real estate excise tax. And how long is that? Is that for the duration of the loan that it would be imposed for anyone buying property within the city, or how does that work?
We've already adopted that real estate excise tax. We've had it for a number of years. And I
Okay.
don't know how long, but it's been something that's ongoing and continual. It's not a new tax.
Okay, so nothing in addition. That's not what I was reading. Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Stewart?
Thank you. I think this was talked about at the last Public Works Committee meeting, if I remember right, and I think it's a wonderful concept. Where does the money come from?
The money from the loan?
Yeah, who sends us the loan money? Does that come from the state of Washington, from a federal agency? Or where does it come from?
State, correct?
Yeah, it's a state funded program through their capital budget.
Okay, good. And then is there a way of a formula for how we pay it back, or has that been discussed yet?
That hasn't been discussed yet. I
So
don't.
it would be part of our debt service for this facility. And because it's a storm facility, it'd be coming out of the storm utility, the debt service for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Nope. I think we're good.
So next
Perfect.
steps, this will be back on next week's council agenda for consideration. And then we'll certify this with the Public Works Trust Fund Board. And then we'll have a result whether we got the money on August 5th.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, one quick question. Okay.
So I just want to clarify the ask, what is it, we're gonna approve them going for the loan?
Yeah, it requires the governing body sign the certification, like Drew mentioned, that says that you understand that it's a loan.
And we agree to pay it back,
agree to pay it back.
Usually if it's a loan.
and it's 1.7%,
Yeah.
so that we know clearly what we're getting into, and that's what the council will be voting on.
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
thank you.
Perfect. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Good job.
Oh, Mr. Reed has his hand up.
Oh, Mr. Reed.
I just have a quick question on the loan repayment. Is that going to result in an increase in fees to residents? Or is that something that would be absorbed within existing fee structure?
Capital plan. Yeah, it's already listed in our utility rate model as one of our capital projects.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is that it? Are we good? Thank you. Okay, now we're going back to the roadway preservation program. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Gursimran Singh, Engineering Specialist with Public Works. With here with me, I have Andrew Leach, Public Works Manager. Started working for the city in November last year, and thank you for having me. So I will be presenting the payment program presentation. Now let's start by talking about the concept of payment preservation program. The concept involves applying a series of surface treatment over the years to extend the life of the pavement. So the program approach should be preventative rather than reactive. Eventually, the program helps in saving taxpayers' money in the long run by maintaining a higher serviceable roadways. Now, in the presentation, I will be referencing to pavement condition index throughout my presentation. Pavement condition index, also known as PCI, is a numerical index between 0 and 100, which is used to evaluate the condition of roadway, where 0 is the worst possible condition and 100 is the best condition or a new pavement. So in my next few slides, I'll be showing the pictures of roadway sections with different PCIs. Now, studies have shown there is a correlation between pavement condition and age of pavement. Please see the generic deterioration curve, which is based on PCI and age of pavement. Depending on the PCI of the roadway, different treatment options are available out there. So if a PCI is very good, above 70, localized preventative maintenance is applied, such as crack seals. If a PCI is in good condition, between 50 and 70, preventative treatments such as chip seals and slurry seals are applied. Poor condition, between 25 and 50, reconstructive treatments such as overlay for full width and, and depth roadway repair, or with patchwork overlay where target specific bad spots on the roadway sections are treated. Now, as you can see in the curve, the cost of applying specific treatment in different PCI ranges increases with the age of pavement. So hence the program approach should be preventative rather than reactive. Next slide is pavement condition index example. This is an example of excellent roadway with PCI of 100. Next slide is showing pavement condition, very poor, and good condition. Next slide, goal and need to implement the program. The goal of the program is to increase traffic safety on City of Sumner roads, improve quality and efficiency of Sumner roadway system, enhance driving experience and satisfaction of citizens, apply right pavement preservation treatment at right time, to maintain and manage the entire City of Sumner roadway network to the highest pavement condition index. So preventive approach rather than reactive approach. The need to implement the program, maximize taxpayers' dollars investment to use them wisely for maximum return. Cost effectiveness of the program. Pavements represent $1 billion investment. We must protect them. Next slide is a summary of pavement condition index, also known as a PCI, showing poor and fair condition roads in the City of Sumner, which are based on 2021 and 2022 roadway condition survey. As we see, the highest concentration of the poor and fair roads are closed within the downtown area. Let's go to the next slide for the zoomed in PCI map of the downtown area. Now, some of these yellow and red roadway sections will be addressed with future capital and future overlay projects. To name a few, Academy Street between Cherry Avenue and Ryan Avenue, between Sumner Avenue and Wood Avenue. Valley Avenue between Gary Street and the bridge over 410, and between Meade Macomber and 63rd Street. Pavement Preservation Program in 2023. In 2023, now interns with the direction from city staff completed annual road grading of roads in 2021 and 2022. Our internal city staff utilized city's pavement management system, Paver, to perform pavement analysis based on annual collected road grading data. City staff researched and identified street sections in need of maintenance treatments. Now, in 2023, city identified streets for the following surface treatment: pavement crack sealing, pavement patching, and pavement chip seal. 3 pavement preservation projects awarded in 2023, 1 crack seal, 2 surface treatments. And the total dollar amount for these pavement preservation projects is $685,875. Next slide, I want to highlight upcoming pavement preservation projects for the current year. On all of the blue highlighted street sections, we are performing pavement preservation work. And in the next few slides, I will be talking about these upcoming pavement preservation projects broken down by the treatment applied at each of these highlighted street sections. Next slide, pavement patching project. This project was awarded at $297,887 to CoreTap Construction. Project construction completed in May of this year, and at present, the project is in closeout phase. So we patched areas on 142nd Avenue in front of shops, Wood Avenue, 160th Street, Valley Avenue, removed the medians in the center turn lanes, and patched over the area. In the next slide, I want to share some photographs of our pavement patching contractor working on a patching project. Top left, on Wood Avenue in front of Sumner Bonnie Lake School District Office, contractor is using a grinder to remove pavement for the patchwork. Top right, on 142nd Avenue in front of the city shops, crews are paving the big patch. Bottom left, on 160th Avenue, south of Main Street, pouring hot mix asphalt from the dump truck into the patch area. Bottom right, on Wood Avenue, in front of Sumner Middle School, using a roller to achieve compaction. Next slide. medians on Ebb Valley Avenue. Now, city shops removed the medians in the turn central lane and contractor patched over the area. Next slide, pavement chip seal project. Project construction completed last week for this project. This project was awarded at $209,777 to Sierra Santa Fe. Now, we chip sealed down Wood Avenue from Elm Street to God Street, but staying out of Main and Wood project limits. 142nd Avenue East in front of the city shops, 160th Street between Elm Street and Washington Street, and another section of 160th Street from Main Street to approximately 400 down south, only southbound lane on this section, and Elizabeth Street between Hunt Avenue and Traffic Avenue. Next slide, I want to share some photographs of our chip seal contractor working on our chip seal project. Top left, on Wood Avenue in front of Sumner Middle School. Now, here in the picture, road surface is sprayed with liquid asphalt. Top right, within seconds after spraying liquid asphalt, rocks, also known as chips, are being spread on the road surface over the liquid asphalt. Bottom left, the rocks are being compacted and embedded into the asphalt with rollers. Bottom right, next day, when the asphalt has hardened and cooled, loose gravel is swept off the surface. Next slide highlights the crack seal project location. Now, the project anticipated construction start date is July 19th, that's next week, Wednesday. And project award amount is $178,280. And the contractor for this project is Central Paving. We're going to get a lot of crack seal work done this year, and project is spread throughout the city with the amount of funding available for this project.
Christopher, can I just add one thing? We're doing a lot of crack seal this year is because last year we put it out to bid and we didn't get any bids for it. So we're doing 2 years this year.
Next slide is paint line striping refresh project. The project work involves painting of pavement markings such as solid lines, skip lane lines, and dotted lines. And the blue highlighted street sections are the locations where the paint will be refreshed this year. Now, the project tentative construction start date is second week of August, and Pierce County will be performing this work for the city of Sumner. Next slide is thermoplastic markings refresh project, and project work involves painting of pavement markings such as crosswalk, stop bars, traffic arrows, and letters. And blue highlighted circles on the map are the locations where the thermoplastic paint will be refreshed. The project is currently in construction. It is a contract work. Contractor for this project is Specialized Pavement Markings. And usually after surface treatments, such as chip seal and overlays, thermoplastic markings are repainted, and any other fading thermoplastic markings within the city are refreshed. Next few slides, I'm going to talk about projects proposed for overlay for the next year. We're proposing Mason Street between Wood Avenue to all the way to the end, cul-de-sac, with the funds utilization of $140,000. Proposing Washington Street between Wood Avenue and Macmillan Avenue, with the funds utilization of $50,000. Hunt Avenue between State Street and West Main Street the fund's utilization of $110,000. Now, the next slide is a summary of proposed overlay for 2024 next year. Our overlay budget is $300,000 and total cost of proposed overlay, $300,000. Now, the cost of proposed overlay is to perform an overlay work only. Any utility any subgrade repair, utility resets, ADA upgrades, erosion control, paint and thermoplastic marking costs are separate to this cost. Now, at present, we are still in the investigative phase and researching other viable options to find out good candidates for overlay. We will figure out the final plan for overlay as we go. Next slide, moving forward in the future of the program. Continuing support and encouragement from the director, management, and council on the program is very crucial. Performing road rating of the roadway network each year. Dedicated funding with consistent dollar amounts will ensure survival and growth of this essential program. Learning experience and training for employees is essential to the future of the program. This is all I have, and yeah, I will be more than happy to answer any questions which council I have.
Mayor, if I could just make one comment before we get started. Christopher, can you go back to the overlay? Forward now, where it shows all of them. This one, I just want to remind council that this is the first biennium that we've actually had an overlay budget. So recall you authorized $300,000 to start this overlay program. And I'll admit, I was a little shocked when I saw this presentation a couple of weeks ago that $300,000 doesn't get us a whole lot. But I want you to see on a map what $300,000 looks like and how critical it is to maintain our roads, but also very transparent with you of what it costs to keep our roads at a high level. So with that.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Potato.
Well, speaking about the overlay, I know especially on the west side of Traffic Avenue, those roads are really not in very good condition. So at least it's good they're going to be addressed. And, you kind of wonder if just an overlay will be good enough. And I hope it is.
Better than nothing, right?
Yep.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for working on this. I know that there aren't any ribbon cuttings that come with maintenance, but it is something, and we're never going to hear about it unless the roads get terrible. And then just like wood, it's necessary. But also thank you for the 3 locations that you did pick. I think Mason is going downhill, and that's about to be the new route for the buses, for the school buses. So that's going to be necessary for us to get that done in time. And I hear from a lot of people around Elizabeth Street area who feel a little bit neglected on some of the updates that they see happening around the rest of downtown. And so anyway, and while, yes, I agree with Jason, it's sometimes shocking to see like, oh, this is as much as we're going to get done. It also shows how, I think, far behind we are, like how necessary it is to keep doing it. But anyway, thank you.
Councilmember Cole.
I want to echo what Councilmember Newman said, and work getting done on Elizabeth Street. I've had a couple of people talk to me about just the city neglecting that particular part of Sumner. So thanks for that. And then I have a quick question about the restriping. Once that's painted over, so I've been driving down Wood the last couple of days, so I see how that's going, and that there will be fresh paint, one coat. Is the current paint stripes in different areas, are they going to be painted over, or are they going to be removed and then painted?
Usually if it's a paint, we just paint it over. But if it's a thermoplastic paint, like a crosswalk, we take it off and then repaint it, refresh
Okay.
it.
Okay, so those stripes that are down in the middle of the road, those are the ones that are painted over and over?
Yep.
Okay, I walk in the streets of the city of Seattle regularly, and those are so challenging to walk over. I mean, theirs are really high. I'm really hoping that Sumner doesn't get to that point where, I mean, it's really like you're walking over a speed bump. And anyway, it's kind of annoying, but anyway, I know we're not there yet, but I hope we don't get there. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question about Mason Street overlay. I know that road has been beat up like crazy because of the construction of the new school building. Was there any input by the city in that contract to cover the cost of an overlay so the city didn't have to pay for it? I mean, you go down there at any point in time and there's heavy trucks parked on it, traffic going back and forth through that whole construction project. And it just seems like they should be made to pay for part of that.
Mr. Bagel's gonna turn on his mic.
Okay, so if there was a requirement that was put on them, there would have been a half street improvement based on the side of the road that they were doing their construction. I do not have that information in front of me on whether or not that was a requirement, but that's something that our development services team looks at to make sure that the impacts are minimized, but typically it's a half street improvement.
Okay, thank you. And that road also has those fancy speed bumps that we talked about a few years ago. And if they overlay that street, the speed bumps will come off, and will the cost of that project have them put back on? Doug, do you know?
I'm just letting Andrew.
Okay.
I think those speed bumps on Mason are replaced by our shops crew. They're rubber speed bumps that can be removed and put back in. They just get re-nailed into the ground. So I think we could have our shops come place them back in after the overlay contractors done.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I also have a question on Mason Street. The way I remember, that's going to be where the buses will go behind the high school. Is there been any thought about making that road a little tougher? Stronger material, concrete, anything like that? Because it just seems like it's going to get huge amounts of wear.
So I think when we do an overlay, we'll be able to look at like the sub-bit grade, the gravel sub-base possibly, and see if the road maybe matches our current standard details, if it's got the required thickness or not. So, but that will take us grinding down and seeing what thickness of asphalt we have out there and verifying whether it's adequate.
So will you do that before you do this overlay, or will the overlay just happen and then down the road, it'll get looked at more intensely?
So it will happen during the project. If we start grinding and noticing that we've only got like 3 inches of asphalt, and then we'll have to do probably a change order to
Okay.
do
Okay,
a larger.
so you're gonna research it out.
Mhm.
Okay, and then, so we've all heard about, the little processes you do, but what is this slurry seal you're talking about? That just sounds like a lot messier than we've had before.
I think we never had slurry seal in the city. Did we do any slurry seal project?
What, we don't do that? That's just something we don't do? We just do the
Yeah.
chip seal?
Yeah, we just do chip seal, overlay, and crack seal.
And then things like after they brush the rocks, do they still do that fog seal?
Yes, we
Okay.
do fog seal after the chip seal, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want you to be prepared for all these silly questions, so. And then the other thing is, I'm glad you're here. And we've all wanted someone to be able to spend special attention on the roads, and I'm looking forward to the enhanced driving experience. You promised.
Okay, I need to get Mr. Reed first. Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a couple of questions. One is, were there a few additional projects that were right behind these that were pushed off for the next funding round?
Done by other streets. I don't believe they were not. I don't believe there were any other projects or streets that were pushed behind.
Mr. Reed, are you
Okay.
asking if there's additional streets that we would want to overlay?
Yes.
No, if we have funding and, we're still in the investigative phase. And we're just looking for viable options out there for an overlay.
Okay, my next question is for 24 fiscal year, what is the projected balance of the council directed fund?
If you're referring to the council strategic fund, you'll have $1.1 million by the end of this year. And it'll increase by $350,000 next year.
And that's not encumbered at this point.
Correct. It's not encumbered at this point.
I would be interested in at least doubling this this allotment for 24 if the vendors are available to provide the service to cover even more area.
Councilmember Reed, I thought we were talking about putting council fund into the property acquisition.
Well, and that's why I was wondering about the encumber. If it had been encumbered or if that was undesignated funding.
It is completely undesignated at this time, and it would be an appropriate use of council strategic funds if the council wanted to direct more funds to an overlay program. Going back, I know that during the budget process last fall, one of the issues that council asked staff to research was, this overlay program is a new program. What does it look like? And that's why we're here tonight, is really to say, we've done some early look at it. This is what $300,000 gets you. I know that there's more roads that probably need overlay. But we were trying to keep it in the budget at this time. So if council would like, we can certainly go back and determine maybe that next level of roads that we would propose. And then that would be a council decision if you wanted to amend the budget to allocate additional funds to an overlay program.
If the funds are available, and I know there have been some other, and that's why I was asking about the encumber, because I know there were other discussions about how we were using some of that money on property acquisition. But if there are still additional funds beyond that without draining the council strategic fund too low, then I'd definitely be interested in looking at if there's an opportunity to seize on more improvement for 24. I know it's a year out, but still, if the funds are available without draining the fund, I guess would be my interest, if there's opportunity there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I was just wondering, wouldn't we just normally address that at budget time and just stick with what this department has planned for this 2024, and then maybe talk about upping the amount for the budget that went out further than that? It just,
Yeah, either way would be appropriate, however council wants to do it. But as engineering just mentioned, there's a certain amount of design work that happens. So if you were to amend the budget, let's say at the mid-buy, it might be too late to actually spend it in 24 because of the necessary design work that needs to occur prior to it going out to bid.
yeah.
So, if council wanted to spend additional money in 24, we would want to know that sooner than later, so we can, deal with not only the budget amendment, but the work associated with that. I will say right now, our engineering staff is working well beyond capacity at this point. So I, as the city administrator, would be leery about increasing public works workload next year at this time.
Yeah, because that's sort of what I was thinking about, but besides this department and as much planning as they have to do ahead, I also think about the public. We have so many roads torn up, so many things going on. I mean, you wash your car and then you just do this zigzag. You don't want chip seal and asphalt and besides all the other things. So I just think it looks like they've bought off on a pretty good section here. And I would like to just sort of stick with that.
Okay, Councilmember Cole.
Yes, I have one question about, on one of the slides, there was a bullet point that talked about training staff. And my question really is related to all of these projects are contracted out. So as part of that training, does that bullet point mean that some of the staff will be trained on how to do some of this work in the future or no?
With the training, I meant training for the staff through WashDOT and LTAP. For the payment preservation, different treatment, new treatment options available out there, like we talked about slurry sealing. Those kind of, going to those kind of trainings
Okay.
and new methods for chip seal and overlays. So those kind of trainings, not the actual,
Not the actual work itself.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
But-
curious if that's a viable option.
So our city shops do some crack seal work already, and they do it ahead of the chip seal program, right?
Yep.
So they already do some of the crack seal work if it's tied to chip seal. And then we contract out the other crack seal that we're not going to be chip sealing the following year, so.
Okay.
And it's hard work, and we did quite a bit of it on overtime, early 2019, and it was very difficult to even schedule on overtime to get people to come out and do crack seal work.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think you took out a huge chunk and thank you. It looks really good. So nice work. Anybody else? No. Good job.
Thank you.
You'll be an expert next time.
Okay, next up is Development Services update. Have Director Doug Beagle here, as well as a couple of his planners to go over everything that is under development right now in the city. There's a lot of it, so turn it over to them.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. How's everybody day today? I'm here tonight to talk about Development Services Department and all the work that Krishanda and Scott are doing for the department. And I have Associate Planner Scott Waller and Krishanda Walker. That'll be part of the presentation tonight. If you recall, back in 2019, the city decided to move community development into long-range planning and create a development services department to focus on permitting. And from that, our goal was to, which one, this one? Yeah, we established our goal in the very beginning that Sumner will set the standard of excellence for permit issuance. So that's a broad statement. How do we do that? Well, we really had to think this through a little bit. And that's is accomplished through timely reviews with predictable outcomes that help projects get permitted. So we are really a progressive thinking department for the city that wants development here. And we try to do everything we possibly can to get to a yes for the department, for applicants. Why allow any development? Sure.
I've never quite understood the division on the community development and the permits. Can you just explain a little bit
Sure.
about that to me?
I can do
please?
my best. If not, we have Ryan Windish to back me up.
Okay.
This, well, maybe Jason's gonna.
That was my decision.
Ryan, you've changed, Ryan.
So back in 2019, when I became city administrator, one of the things that I heard a lot from then Mayor Pugh was hey, we're having challenges in permitting, and I don't think that we had as many challenges as sometimes we got accused of. But what we had is we had a system where we had planners in community development, and you had engineers in public works, and you also had fire review, which at that time was with East Pierce Fire. And it was very easy that if a applicant wasn't getting the answer they wanted from one, they would then start shopping around, right? So what we did, one of the goals of putting everybody in permitting under one is it's one team working, in concert to get permit applicants to yes. And I think it's worked out great. It also then allowed Ryan to really focus on the long range planning and community projects that are important, like economic development, all of our downtown events, our access or transit is another word for that. Building relationships with our business community and chambers, that all became Ryan's, as well as parks, cemetery, downtown events. I think I got them. Oh, and facilities, he gets the day-to-day facility operations too, and custodial and all that. So that's really the division in a nutshell.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yes, thank you. So why allow any development? Well, of course, it's required by law. It's also required for grant funding. And the state is already taking planning control away from the cities. And supply and demand means increased supplies, which helps keep costs manageable, but a lot of things are aging in place options, and you can see that with our downtown center plan that we have, where we're uplifting. And then, of course, the impact fees, which enhances and provides capacity for new development. And as we know, we want people to come in here and live here and put their businesses here within our community. So all of these things tie together. And with our Department of Progressiveness, as I like to say, but we're also bound by the Growth Management Act, which series of statutes from adoption in 1990 that requires fast-growing cities and counties to develop comprehensive plan to manage their population growth, which this body has adopted and been consistent. So that.
Yeah, I'll take things from here. I'm Scott Waller, one of the planners here in Development Services, and Krishan and I will run through the rest of the presentation and kind of get you up to speed on different projects throughout town. As you may have seen, and you will see, we have a lot of projects in the works. As far as residential growth in Sumner, we have two large kind of centers designated in the town, the Town Center Plan and the East Sumner Neighborhood Plan. And those are two areas where we anticipate receiving the most growth and the most high density growth. And so we track how many units are coming into each of those areas. And so these little snippets of Excel sheets show combined in East Sumner, so think YMCA area, and then Town Center, the downtown kind of core over on this side, close to 800 units proposed. And that's everything that's being kind of discussed with us, a developer and applicant thinking about building and starting on a proposal, to some of those are underway right now, being built and getting close to being livable. So a lot of growth coming in, and it's coming into the areas where we have kind of planned for it and anticipate that growth occurring. Where we're at for this year, as far as just overall permits in 2023, we're at 265 permits issued, about halfway through the year. So we're pretty on track with the previous years, and it's kind of ramped up. These last few years have been pretty high permit numbers. So we're tracking that way. And a lot of the projects are larger projects too. So the one permit is a big project too. So some of our primary permit types, we review, any sort of development permit, our department does. Some of the main projects or permit types we do are new construction. So think of a vacant lot or an underdeveloped lot that's being completely redone. You got site work, you got utilities, you got new buildings, parking lots, everything, the works. That'd be what we call new construction. Tenant improvements, we see a lot of those. A lot of times in the warehouses, you have tenants coming and going. And when a new tenant comes in, like an Amazon, they can invest a lot of money into these buildings and sites. And so they do what we call tenant improvement. They're usually smaller, scope of work, maybe not as much site work, but we see a lot of those. The other primary type we see are single family residential, and that covers everything from, you know, someone remodeling their house, doing an addition, to building a new house. So for those new construction projects, the larger projects, think, you know, like a Peterbilt or something that's coming in on a vacant lot. This is kind of the flow of how the permit process works. It starts with a pre-application, and that's a free process that the city offers. It allows a developer, an applicant, or a landowner to say, hey, city, here's what I'm looking to do. This is my idea. What do I need to know? And so it gets reviewed by our department, and it's reviewed by the same people who are going to review those permits down the road, you know, under a real permit. So we get a chance in planning to talk about land use and setbacks and height and that sort of thing. Our building official can speak into building codes, engineer can talk about utilities and fire, and we get to kind of provide all the information we can up front, kind of early on in that process. And it's a great free kind of benefit that the city provides to someone. From there, and what we outline in that is here's the steps you would go through. And it generally starts with land use permits. So larger projects are going to generally require some of those things you see, you know, the notice signs go up for, and maybe require a public hearing or a public comment period or a plat. And so land use permits occur. And then once they've kind of gone through that stage, they'll start on development permits. And those can kind of work concurrent with the land use permits to try to expedite some of the process. We let them kind of get some review going. And development permits are really broken up into civil. So think site work, utilities, the parking lots, the dirt work, and then the building. And that could be the exterior building or the interior of the building. There we go. Here's kind of the flow for a tenant improvement. Again, we see a lot of these in the industrial area as new tenants come in or they expand within an area. These start off with maybe a pre-application if it's a large tenant improvement, or sometimes it's just someone asking, hey, we're looking to expand, we're looking to do this. What kind of permit do we need? And then from there, it's sometimes they require land use permits, but generally speaking, a tenant improvement is just gonna be a building permit, and it's everything's shown on one permit. We get it done, and they get going on their project. So here's kind of the flow of both, you know, a civil permit or a building permit, or even just a single family permit. The applicant's going to submit, and that typically happens through our permit portal through that we have available online. An applicant can just submit the plans and, you know, pay any review fee there. The city, once we receive that, will review it, and if everything is good to go on that, we approve it, and they get their permit. If there's comments, we will provide a comment letter back to the applicant, kind of showing, hey, here's a code that we need you to meet, and here's where we see you're not meeting it. They'll resubmit, and then once we get to that point, we can issue the permit once everything has been addressed. We have a number of projects kind of throughout town in various stages. Again, some of these are things someone submitted a pre-app on, and they're, you know, really looking at moving forward. Some of these are being built right now, and, you know, the inspectors are out there looking at stuff. And so we have a wide variety of projects in the works that we're going to go over. And with that, I'll pass it over to Krishanda, and she'll get things going.
Thank you. Good evening, council. We will begin with an update on the Seaport Industrial Development. As a reminder, it's zoned in our light industrial M1 zoning. It's located towards the north end of the city along Stewart Road. It features a new signalized driveway intersection with enhanced landscape features. That's pictured there for you, as well as the rendering that was submitted with the application. We have the last building, building number 6. All the other buildings are grayed out and have been completed. We are looking to issue a civil permit for building 6, and that building is showing approximately 386,700 square feet. The total complex is approximately 2 million square footage of warehousing, and some of the upcoming tenants or current tenants in this complex include Northwest Door, Helly Hansen, a metal industry supplier called Surface Films, and it looks like Nordstrom is also moving in with a tenant improvement permit. Next, we will provide you an update on the Triad Machinery Project. This site is zoned interchange commercial. It is within the vicinity of the 24th Street East. They will be constructing a new two-story building for the sales and renting of heavy equipment. The building permit was issued back in October of 2022. Some revisions were made to the site development permit, which was recently approved as well. So we will see continued construction progress here at this site. The project will result in a pedestrian-oriented space located along the frontage of 136th Avenue, and we'll see Paulsville RVs also located in this vicinity.
All right, next, kind of in that same general area, this is what's called Sumner West, and we're kind of across 167 from the Holiday Inn and the new Starbucks up there. So the corner of West Valley and 24th Street, it's a vacant piece of land there, kind of up against the Edgewood Hill, kind of on the outskirts of Sumner here. And they're proposing a pretty large commercial development in there. The site plan is oriented to the side, so it's kind of twisted a little bit to make it match there, but they're proposing it's about 40,000 square feet of commercial space. They're in the early phases of the project, so they've gone through SEPA, so some land use permits, and some they're working on their fill and grade permits. And this is all kind of speculative building, so we don't have an end user at this time. It's just someone looking to build out the space, and then they would kind of lease it or sell it to an end user. But it's exciting to see something happening here in this area of town. Kind of sticking in the same area. Again, we're in the interchange commercial. We're just north of the Peterbilt sites, and now we're just across 136 from the Holiday Inn and the railroad track there. We have someone proposing a donut shop with additional commercial space. Again, this is kind of speculative commercial space that could be leased out to different tenants. But the one user who's coming in right now is Chuck's Donuts. And I believe they have some other locations in the area that are evidently very popular. So it'll be great to have another business up in that area of town that provides, amenities and services to that area. And so it's been good to see that interchange commercial area build out here in the last couple of years. We've got a lot of what were vacant lots filling out.
Let's see, moving more towards the middle of town in a neighborhood commercial zone is the proposed assisted living facility called Kinsman Care. It's located just north of the city limits Mini Mart. They are proposing the building up towards the sidewalk along East Valley Highway. The project is nearing permit issuance, and it will result in a 15,000 square foot facility to house 40 bedroom units for around the clock care.
All right, and this is for a proposed gas station and convenience store. This is the corner of Main and Valley. It previously was 7-Eleven proposing it, and then we're no longer looking at it, but the property owner continued forward with the proposal to kind of build out kind of a speculative convenience store gas station to market it to an end user. They recently kind of wrapped up their land use permits, and we'll see if they end up coming in with development permits. It's kind of balls in their court at this point to see if they want to move forward and develop it. But it's about a 3,000 square foot convenience store with an 8 pump station. They includes a lot of frontage improvements. So they do a lot of new pavement, kind of seating areas and trees out there. And as well as kind of a decorative feature at the kind of northeast corner at Bach Avenue. And they did a good job of kind of screening the site from the residential to the south and kind of the east side of town. So again, they've kind of finished up their land use process, and we're waiting to see if they end up coming in with any development permits for this project.
We have another new commercial development, of course, is a familiar site here. We call this our QFC site. This property is within our East Sumner neighborhood area, and it's zoned general commercial. This project has submitted for design review and received conditions of approval back in February 16th of this year. So the renderings we see now will show improved exterior changes, development of new connections and pedestrian spaces along Parker Road, and an interior remodel through a building permit tenant improvement to construct 3 tenant spaces, but they have not yet been determined at this time. Staying within our East Sumner neighborhood area and in another general commercial zone is the Titus Will proposal. It's located on 64th Street, just across from the YMCA parking lot. They are proposing to utilize 3 parcels there for a used truck sales lot. They will possess strong visibility from the 410 highway. Design review was also recently completed and conditions were approved as recommended. The site plan contains adequate landscape buffers and screening required for any passenger vehicle parking areas. This project also features a pedestrian plaza space adjacent to the sidewalk. All pedestrian and site lighting will be constructed under phase 1. And phase 1 consists of a 4,000 square foot truck sales office building, along with their floor showroom or the outdoor showroom area and parking areas. Phase 2 is a proposed addition of another 4,200 square foot service shop and truck wash bay. They have not yet submitted for design review for that building. So we will continue with our permitting process on this proposal.
All right, and this is the Creekside Townhome Project. This is over kind of Elm Street, across the street, kind of kitty corner from Memory Haven facility out there. Kind of a vacant triangular parcel that runs along Elm Street, has Salmon Creek kind of running on the northeast side of it. They had originally proposed a 30 unit townhouse condominium project. And then the developer was interested in doing what's called like a 0 lot line or unit lot subdivision, which provides for a different type of housing. And the council just recently passed the ability to do that. And so they were on board with that. They were excited for it. And so it was a very quick kind of utilization of that new code and seeing someone come in and kind of change gears just a little bit on the project to allow it to be a slightly different home ownership style. It does a good job of providing some of that missing middle housing that gets talked about. And so they're keeping with the 30 units, but each one will be its own lot at the end of the day for kind of a different type of housing option for people to purchase and have a little space out there. So again, 30 units of townhomes. It will provide some good frontage improvements out on Elm Street and provide a good kind of street face feel out there, kind of what you'll see there. They're in the works right now. They've been doing site work for a bit and they're gearing up to come in for their building permits. Now they've started through that process of doing the 0 lot line subdivision. They're about, they completed their preliminary plat and they're moving towards final plat for that. So it's exciting to see someone kind of take advantage of that opportunity and move forward with it really quickly. The Sumner High School project completed their phase 1 as shown in kind of yellow up there on the upper left corner of that site plan. Phase 2 was also included in their scope of work when they went through kind of land use permits and SEPA and the CUP. But that's for a later phase for the district to move forward with. Phase 1 has been completed and it was operational as of a handful of months ago. They've kind of completed and wrapped up the work on that site. And at some point, they should come in for phase 2 to finish out the rest of it. But in the meantime, phase 1 operates kind of great as a standalone facility in conjunction with what's existing out on that site as well. Just kind of near the high school there, this is on Wood Avenue. This is the old Teriyaki house. It's being redeveloped and called Township 20. It's gonna be kind of a eatery and drink establishment. They're going to do a kind of a cool pop out of the building. You can kind of see the new portion of the building is going to be that kind of timbered outdoor patio space with like a little outdoor fire pit and a good area to kind of congregate and eat and drink. Do some little bike parking there. So it'll be kind of a great kind of upgrade to that area of town and kind of provide something that will draw people in to kind of go and gather. So they're under construction right now. I believe they have all their permits completed for this one and they're underway. This one, I'm guessing everyone is familiar with this one and knows where it is. It's right across the street from us here. This is the Kincaid mixed use or the Red Apple site. This is kind of an overview showing their site plan. So you have the build out of that complete city block. So you have Maple Street on the left there, Academy on the right, and then Alder and Kincaid on the top and bottom. So they'll build out that whole block, do a lot of frontage improvements as part of it. You have a nice new sidewalk with street trees and parking spaces. They're coordinating with the Academy Street bike lane to make sure everything kind of flows there and works well with this development and that project. Here's kind of some rendering. So this is looking from kind of Maple Street, looking up. I think this would be kind of from the liquor store's parking lot, actually, kind of the view. So you have kind of a commercial space along Maple there, kind of facing the Main Street side, kind of a natural spot for the commercial. And then you'll have residential above and behind. And it's kind of a fully enclosed parking garage that will access on the City Hall side. So it will be kind of less impactful to the other residential areas because the cars will come and go across from the City Hall parking lot. So nice looking product. They're in for permits and we're excited to see this one keep moving along. Another downtown project. So both this one and the last one are part of that town center plan area. Those numbers we showed you at the beginning, kind of where we're anticipating capturing some of the higher density developments. This is just north of the library site called the Riverfront Development. Site plan kind of shows, larger building with kind of built out towards the sidewalk. They'll build out a section of that Sumner Link Trail that will continue down Friar. And this is where the trail will kind of jog towards the river and eventually make its way down towards West Main Street there. But they'll build out this project here. It's a 6-story building. They're going to have some commercial and residential space on this one. It's going to be about 127 units. Here's kind of a rendering. This is kind of from across the street from the library. So looking at the corner. And then the shared driveway and the trail would be just left of the building. So they'll have kind of a brick floor, or a ground floor level will be brick, kind of the big storefront windows. The colors and materials kind of wash out a little bit in this rendering, but they have a few different materials going on there, and the color will be slightly different than what this shows. But they kind of a wood pattern, kind of did a good job of breaking up these larger buildings. So it doesn't just look like one large structure. They kind of almost look like individual buildings with huge patio spaces for the tenants on some of those side kind of indentations you see there. So they're also in for permits. They're doing some preliminary site work to kind of strengthen up that site, and they're getting really close to having those ready to go. So site work should commence pretty soon on this one.
We're jumping back to the East Sumner neighborhood area. This is a project that's currently underway, as you know. It comprises of a total of 160 units on both the west and east site, as shown on the map there. We also provided you a snippet of how far this apartment project is located from the YMCA. 9 building permits were issued back in September, between the September and November of 2022. And a few current photos there show the progress of the development. It's 3-story multifamily dwellings. As noted, the west site, formerly the old Windmill Greenhouse, is developed with 5 apartment buildings and 1 recreation leasing building. And that west site contains 102 units. The east site, located at the corner of 60th and 162nd Avenue, will be developed with 3 apartment buildings for a total of 60 units. Building 9 is actually the building located in the rear, will contain 24 studio apartment buildings, some apartment studios. And building 7 and 8 are situated along 60th Street there. If you're interested in knowing about the total on-site parking that was required for the west site, it was 174. They are constructing 175 spaces. Total on-site parking required for that east site was a total of 90, and that is the amount that they provided. This multifamily project contributes to the development of new mid-block connection pathways as required under our East Sumner neighborhood plan area. So we will have new public connections that will be established in easements. They will run east to west through that west site. And another easement will extend a portion over a 10-foot wide walkway that will facilitate future connections to the commercial development on 60th Street. And those mid-block connections will only exist on that west site. The east site is also constructing the extension of 162nd Avenue, and that will be completed with that project.
Indeed. The deputy mayor has a question about that one.
You talked about these 10-foot walkways between there. I think there's something similar to that between the Fred Meyers and the apartments that they built over there. But now a lot of times it's locked. Is that what's going to happen to those? Or are they required by the city to be places that pedestrians can use on a regular basis?
Yeah, through the East Sumner neighborhood plan that you all approved and adopted in 2020, these will be public access easements, so they shouldn't be locked. I think the sidewalk constructions that were developed a part of the main project that you're speaking of next to Fred Meyer is a part of their project, but they definitely increased connection and walkability for pedestrians. So they're the ones that own that sidewalk, but yes, we will be able to gain an easement that will allow for that.
So there's a
connection.
difference in the type. The newer ones are going to be for public use.
If they're located in the East Sumner neighborhood area and it has a designated mid-block connection, this west site of the Sumner apartment project contained several anticipated mid-block connections. So part of our job is to ensure that we evaluate that potential for connection and ensure that easement will exist and be
Okay.
provided.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, just within this vicinity, about 200 feet over to the east, there's a proposal for a Sumner Village 9-lot townhome. It's on a current vacant lot that is shaped like an L, and it is zoned HDR for high density residential. This property is also zoned in our East Sumner neighborhood area. There aren't any mid-block connections that are required to this. However, I did mention that there is a street extension that east apartment project is constructing a portion of that street. With this development, we would anticipate construction of that street extension as well. This development that we see here are townhomes. There's only 9. They also are proposing a similar unit lot subdivision style here. I think townhomes is a great transition between apartment housing and the single family housing that exists there to the east along 164th Avenue Court East. An update on the project itself. They have submitted for a SEPA application, design review, and that plat application for the proposed 0 lot line subdivision.
All right, so staying in that same area of town, the East Sumner, this is just behind Abersano's and the QFC, a vacant parcel on the south side of Main Street there. It's gonna be a mixed use development. You can kind of see the layout here. They have a larger building up towards Main Street there on the left side. And then they have a row of townhomes on the north side there. And they're kind of utilizing some of that kind of cool stamped and stained concrete you see that we've done kind of on Main Street, where they'll have that kind of connect to the sidewalk and have great outdoor seating. This is going to be about 105 units between the townhomes and the apartments. And then they're proposing about 7,000 square feet of commercial along the frontage. So this is kind of looking at the project. On the left there, you see kind of their driveway between the townhomes and the apartment and commercial space with, kind of a nice outdoor area. So it'd be a nice kind of amenity along Main Street. It's hard to see, but on the far right side, they're proposing like a trail. So again, we're looking at kind of connecting some of these large super blocks in town. And instead of blowing huge roads through there that really make development challenging on some of these sites, they're looking at doing kind of trails or walkways. And so they'll have a pretty nice kind of path that will extend south, kind of behind the Abersano's between these sites. That will kind of go down and kind of give another access eventually kind of to the YMCA and some of that area south of this. So again, kind of here's what this one will look like kind of from Main Street here. They've completed a lot of their kind of land use design review permitting, and we've been kind of waiting on them to move forward with submitting for development permits on this one. The last project we're going over tonight, this one came in for a pre-application and we've talked with the developer and they seem very interested in moving forward to design review. And so we only have a site plan because that's what they had for their pre-application, but this is across the street from the YMCA in some of those vacant parcels. And so there's a series of properties that'd be kind of acquired or that are acquired, that'd be consolidated and built out into one development of about 200 apartment units here with some potential commercial space along 60th there. So right across from the YMCA. And they're proposing connecting. So the kind of purple and green hashed line that kind of outlines the north and west portion of the site would be one of those kind of connection pathways that would link up to the one I just talked about before. And so to give you a good kind of bike path walkway that would lead you from Main Street to YMCA to this development and to other developments in that area of town. But this one, like I said, they submitted for pre-app. We gave them feedback and kind of direction, and they seem very interested in moving forward. We're waiting to see them come in with something though. With that, any questions?
Any questions? No questions online? I think you're good. Nice job.
Thank you.
I just want to give our development services team and even community development for the long range planning that they put into this to create the vision. It's really coming together. Our development services team is dealing with very large multifamily permits that, you know, we're not accustomed to dealing with. So we're using outside consultants when necessary to make sure that we honor that timely response and we issue these permits, you know, in a very timely manner and not drag it on for months and months and months. So
yeah,
very
they've done a great
impressive.
job. Okay, city administrator report.
Just one thing for me, if you're on the ARPA committee, we do have a meeting this Wednesday. Just a reminder, it's at 5:30.
Okay, that's it.
That's it. for
Wow.
me.
Do we have any council meeting agenda issues? None? And how about committee meeting issues? Nothing there. We do have an executive session and it should be a period of 15 minutes. There's no action to follow. So at this time, I will adjourn this meeting and we will go into executive session. At 7:48.
And Mayor, we need to actually read the reason why we're moving into executive
An
session.
executive session, yeah. So we will move into adjourn to the study session or to the executive session to discuss with legal counsel pending or threatened litigation per RCW 42.30.110 and personnel matters pursuant to 42.30.1110. Adjourned.
15 minutes,
15
starting at
minutes.
7:47.
So Barb, are you an alternate on ARPA or a full? It is, okay.